Oh, you got to be bilingual. So it doesn't have to
Yeah.
do with like your heritage necessarily.
No, I don't think it's heritage. It's
Okay.
if you're bilingual, you can get like really good high paying jobs up here.
Oh.
Well, if you're bi anything, you can get whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
I identify as bilingual.
That's
and
exactly what I was just
bisexual.
about to say. Like, can you speak
Yeah.
French? No, but I identify as bilingual, so I would like a job now.
Oh, okay. Well, we have to please you then. So
You have to accommodate. Otherwise, you're a bigot.
Yeah, you're non-inclusive if you don't, right?
You just wear the rainbow flag and the French flag and tell them you're bi everything.
Isn't that the same thing? The French flag and the pride flag?
Yes.
Pretty much.
Mega doo-doo.
You disappeared there for a second and you came back. That was weird. I'm going to put you back on top. Hang on. I got to rearrange my Zoom screen so that
I'm on top.
looking
All right.
closer to the camera. All right, let's do this.
Hey.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Testing.
Testing?
Testes.
Testes? 1, 2, 3?
Boner.
I don't know shit about fuck.
Fucker.
I like sucking, but I ain't gay.
Legit bad podcast.
Fuck those honkies.
Welcome to Costco. I love you.
He really knows how to suck a wiener.
Welcome back to Legit Bat. I'm Joe, Jen's here, and Ben is here, and our guest today is Davey Wavey from the Red Pill Cartel podcast, which I gotta say is a way more gangster name than a wiener joke for a podcast. Red Pill Cartel, it sounds hardcore, you know? But this guy is one of those...
Sounds kind of Mexican, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, yeah. But this guy is one of those syrup chugging moose fuckers from up north. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry to all of our Canadian listeners. I love to rag on you, and I know you're cool with it because you're so fucking nice. But Davey, tell us where everybody can find your show and what you're doing over there at the cartel.
I'm, the Red Pill factory is constantly mixing up all those pills, and Nigel is handing them out to everybody as we speak. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Red Pill Cartel Podcast, and from there you can click the link in my bio and listen to me wherever your heart desires.
Perfect. I love it when everybody has a link tree. It's so much easier than putting.
It's way easier. Just condense everything into one, and some people still can't find it because they ask me, "Where can I listen to your podcast?" Oh, wait, never mind. I found it in your bio.
Yeah, or like, no offense, listeners, but when you ask where the links are, go to DuckDuckGo or Google or whatever you want. You type in the name of the podcast, and it shows you where you can listen to it. You don't need a direct link. You can actually find it.
I've done it myself for my own show, and I'm all over the place. So you can find me like that too.
I've Googled myself a couple times, not myself, but the show. And yeah,
I Googled myself. It was wonderful.
Boner.
Had to throw that in there. So what have you been covering on your show lately? What's interested you?
I've been, basically stealing guests from other shows like I always do. I got this one lady on my last episode. Her name was Born Awake Oracle, and she's really out there. I love her. She's fucking awesome, but she's very in tune with the spiritual realm. And I was telling her about my old house that I lived in when I was a kid. And she was telling me, she was kind of like channeling like what was there. So it's pretty interesting. Like she was saying that, yeah, I see a guy in like flannel, and he's perverted and mean. And it was just like, holy shit. Because like when I was growing up in that house, I was probably like 10 or 11 when I heard these voices there, and they freaked me out. And I don't know if I ever told you guys the story or if you ever heard it.
I don't think so.
No.
So there's 3 incidences that happened over a span of like 2 or 3 years, where I heard a voice in the basement, and I was like just about to fall asleep, and I heard this really loud voice in my ear, and it freaked me out, and I was paralyzed in fear for like 20 seconds. And then I whipped the covers off, and I ran up into my parents' bedroom. I'm like, I heard a voice. And they're like, They're like, what? I'm like, I heard a voice downstairs. They're like, you watch too many movies, right? So the second time it happened, I was downstairs playing video games. Sega Genesis. This is how old I am, right? So I hear my mom calling me from the top of the stairs, David. So I pause the game. I go upstairs, and my mom's sitting in the living room. I'm like, Mom, what's up? She's like, nothing. I'm like, well, you called me. She's like, no, I didn't. I'm like, okay, whatever. Go back downstairs. I hear it again, like 5 minutes later. I'm like, Mom, what are you doing? She's like, nothing. I'm just sitting here watching TV. I'm like, you're calling me. And she's like, no, I'm not. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I go back downstairs, start playing again.
Hold on a second. I got a question for you on this particular part.
Sure.
Looking back, not as a kid anymore, have there been times where you've kind of wondered if she was just fucking with you, or have you always known that she was being dead serious?
My mom, it was never really the one to pull pranks.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Very serious Canadian, eh?
Yeah, well, she's awesome. But that being said, I go back downstairs, and then like 5 minutes later, I hear it again, but it's not her voice, and it screamed at me. It said, David! And I fucking dropped the controller, and I ran upstairs, and I sat with my mom in the living room, right? And I didn't say anything. I was like, I was scared shitless. Third incident. I'm being looked after by my brother's wife at the time because I'm like 10 years old. I can't be left home alone. I could, but my parents and brothers went to bingo, and we were playing cards in the dining room, and she asked me to grab her a drink. So I went, grabbed her a drink. I gave it to her. She said, thank you. And then right after I said thank you, I heard a voice in the living room, and it's like really deep, just like the first voice, and it said, thank you. And she looked at me wide-eyed, and I looked at her, and she's like, did you just hear that? I'm like, yeah. So she grabbed my hand. We went to the living room. Like, no TV was on. The windows were closed, everything. And she's like, let's go sit on the porch and wait for everybody to get home. Yeah, we were terrified.
Like an old house? Like an old house? Or...
I think it was built in like the 60s. And this took place in like the late 80s.
Weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't really that old then. I mean, our house was built in the 60s. I've never heard any voices in here. Not usually.
Yeah, well, it all depends on, what happened back then, right? Who knows? But that being said, flash forward to 1 or 2 years ago, I kept rolling up to that house and like looking to see who was living there, not as a creep, but just like, out of curiosity, right? And I pulled up finally one day, like a year or two ago, and I saw a car with the trunk open, and I'm like, oh, there's probably people here now. So I parked the car on the side of the road, and I go up, and there's this guy standing there. He's probably like early to mid 20s. I'm like, hey, what's up, man? He's like, what's up? I'm like, and he's on his phone. And I'm like, I introduced myself. I'm like, my name's Dave. I used to live in this house, right? He's like, oh, no shit. I'm like, yeah, like probably we moved out in like 90 or 91, right? He's like, well, that's when we moved in. I'm like, we grew up here. I'm like, oh shit, no way. So that was interesting. And then I said, I don't want to sound like fucking crazy or anything, but have you guys ever had any kind of like paranormal encounters here? And he's like, well, I don't really believe in that shit, but my sister here does. And the little sister was overhearing me, and she had a big smile on her face. She's like, what happened to you here? And I told her the stories, and she's like, oh my God. And she started telling me how there was a voice whispering in her ear, Katie, that was her name. And there's another time when she was brushing her hair, and she felt like somebody like stroked the small of her back, and she's like flipping out, right? And then she's like, yeah, and like there's a bunch of stuff that happened to my older sister here too. I was like, no way. So I told her, like, before I left, I told them I have a podcast, and here's my Instagram, this and that. And then sure enough, 2 or 3 days later, the older sister follows me on Instagram and messaged me saying, I want to hear what you have to say about what happened to you in this house, because so many things happened to me here.
Weird.
Yeah, dude. So that kind of like validated my experiences that I took along with me for my entire fucking life. And it just like maybe happy, but like freaked out at the same time because like I know something was in that house,
Made you feel a little less crazy, at least.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you probably saved yourself by never engaging with it. There's that whole thing about it's kind of like the old wives' tale of once you invite a vampire in past the threshold, you can't get him back out. It's like you start to engage with it, and then it's like, ha, you acknowledged my presence, so I'm gonna fuck with you really hard. It's like you just going la 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 and going on with your day was probably what saved you until you moved out of that house, because you're probably looking to get that hook in.
Right. So my brother's wife, who heard the thank you with me, I contacted her on Facebook years later because her and my brother got a divorce. But I said, "Oh my God, it's so like cool to see you. Like, how are you?" And this and that, right? We're talking back and forth for a bit, and then I asked her about that time, and she's like, "Dad, that never happened." Yeah, so I'm like, "What?" I remember it like vividly that it happened, right? And
that's so weird. There's a lot of people that do that. They don't want to talk about it. It happens with alien experiences and other things like that, where they'll have a shared experience, and usually one of them completely either blows it off or just never wants to talk about it again, and they don't until like the day they die. That's so crazy.
Or their brain doesn't want to process it, so they just forget about it, or they compartmentalize it to the point where they can't even remember it as actually occurring.
Yeah, it's like they don't want to acknowledge that there's more to this reality than there is, right? So that's what the blue pill is, right? So she was blue pilled, and yeah. But
what do you think that is, though? Like what do you think that was? It was just a voice. So you didn't see nothing, no plates flying.
I didn't see anything. All I heard was a deep, disembodied voice with a little bit of an echo on the end of it. Yeah, it was pretty wild.
So, I mean, obviously, standard science is going to say it's in your head and you're a fucking schizophrenic and whatever. But so to have the same thing happen to somebody else and kind of validate it is wild. I mean, what are the chances two schizophrenics would be in the same house?
Exactly. Yeah, it must have been a mass hallucination. My brother gave us acid before he went out to bingo with my parents or something, right? Like
they always point to that too. Oh, he was probably drunk, because people always hear voices and shit when they're drunk. Have you ever been drunk? Yeah. I have quite
10?
a bit.
Were you drunk when you were 10 hearing these voices?
No.
Canada, of course.
What did the lady that you had on your show, did she say, was she kind of implying that that was the guy, the flannel perverted guy? That was the voice that you were hearing?
Gotcha. Yeah, because it never did anything to me and we were talking about this, like, I said it didn't do anything to me sexually or anything. It didn't touch me or anything. But the girls that were in the house, excuse me, the younger sister, she had like that brush of the hand on the small of her back. And I'm like, oh man, that's fucked. Like, but it didn't do anything like that to me. And it also whispered in her ear, like, Katie, right? And so the older sister that reached out to me, she asked me, right? Like I told you earlier, she asked me, I want to know what happened with you in the house because a lot of shit happened to me here. And I said, well, I would love for you to come on my podcast and we can discuss it. I was so excited. I was like trying not to like be pushy or anything. And then she was like, I said, I got this Saturday open if you're down. She's like, okay, let me get back to you. And then she didn't get back to me. And then I was like, okay, are you still available to come on the podcast? Next thing you know, she's ghosting me. And then I was like,
what a choice of words.
I know, right? No pun intended. So I asked her, I said, I understand if you're uncomfortable on coming on the podcast, but I really would like to have like just a phone call or something so I could hear your experience. We could share experiences. And she just totally had nothing to do with it. And I was thinking maybe she heard my podcast and heard how crazy I am, or she doesn't want to talk about it because she doesn't want to drudge up that energy. And like what Ben was saying, like you don't want to give it validation and invite it in, right?
Yeah, and maybe something happened to her as soon as she started talking to you. Maybe some weird shit started
possible
happening in her life.
I mean,
yeah, because she still lives there, right? So I understand if she doesn't want to talk, but at the same time, it's like, fuck, I'm so goddamn curious what she has to say.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of stories about that where they have an experience as a child or as a young kid that they question, and because it never really gets resolved, it's kind of like that cracked open door, and whatever entity it is, you know, transdimensional, different reality, a ghost, a demon, whatever the fuck, it ends up being that it's just kind of like it's got just enough of a hook in mentally that if you don't scratch that itch, it's like it's always there. But other people have been able to, like, okay, in a safe setting with enough people or, you know, whatever, they end up trying to actually face it. Other people, they end up trying to scratch that itch not in the right way, and it fucks their life up.
I think some people do that subconsciously though too, where something like that will
Right.
come up and it'll give them just enough of a glimmer of something that had
Right.
happened that they don't want to remember, so they just put it in a different box in their head. And but sometimes that happens a lot, especially with alien encounters, where something will happen in their adult life and all of a sudden it cracks that egg open and they're like, oh my god, I remember seeing these monkey men when I
Right.
was 4, or you know.
And like the past regression shit, where all of a sudden that reality that they were, you know, like you said, kind of boxing away, you can't not unbox it at that point. And it's like their curiosity was just enough that they knew mentally deep inside they wanted to crack it open, but then as soon as they see what's inside that box, they're like, oh shit. The funny thing that you mentioned about that though, Joe, is that now they've been able to link a lot of these encounter cases because of how much we have now on it, that it has, you know, caused BPD and MPD within people, borderline personality and multiple personality disorder, where the very fact that they went so long with, you know, a traumatic event, where they got taken and stuff like that, they never sorted it out. And it starts to literally fragment a part of them into a box where later on they try to open it up and it's like two different people, the person that got abducted and then the person that has been living with the abduction subconsciously without really remembering what happened. It's fucking wild.
That is fucking crazy, man.
The multiple
and terrifying at the same time.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell what that is, if it's different entities or if literally their brain is just splintered into so many shards that they actually do have different personalities. There's so many stories of people there's that famous one that Mysterious Universe covered a while ago, but he had like 19 different personalities. I can't remember his name. Billy Corgan. No.
Well, there was Sarah. There was one that they did on this, or Marie. Sorry, there was a girl that they did, Marie, where she had, I believe it was 9 different but very distinct personalities that actually she couldn't remember which ones were doing what. So like she thought she was sleepwalking, but instead she was actually going out at night, having a night on the town, and then when she'd wake up in the morning, she'd feel hungover. She wouldn't remember that she went to sleep, but then they started putting cameras and all this other stuff, and she had this completely different life, and it took years of regression therapy for her to actually name them all. Joe, what you had mentioned about it's hard to tell who it is or if it's the experience, and I think that's exactly the point. Is I think these entities know who's subjective to that more, and so they attack that person, because then if they try to exploit it and take care of it, they're more subject to it actually fucking their life up and getting that negative energy out of them.
I'm trying to figure out what the point of that is, but unless it's like, you know, the classic loosh harvesting where it's just sucking somebody's life force out or whatever, like who knows?
Or if they're just bored, if it's a demon and they're just bored and that's all they've got to do, that's all I would do. If I was a demon, that's all I would do.
That was
I would
their
just
fuck people.
Work order assignment.
I'd be like,
That's
David,
Jen's
I'm gonna
Jen's
pretend I'm his mom.
online gaming personality right there. She's
Wouldn't that be fun? Look, just pretend you're a demon, all right? You're in this other alternate dimension, and 10-year-old Davey Wavey is sitting down playing video games, and you're just like, check it out. Oh, I'm gonna be his mom. Watch.
Right.
That's so funny. Like, that would be hilarious. Like, it doesn't have to be nefarious. They're just doing their thing in their other dimension, and they can.
That's kind of why I was asking what he thinks that is, because it doesn't seem like that, at least to the extent that it got to you, wasn't nefarious. It just seemed like it was fucking with you. And that's I love the idea of the trickster spirit and just literally fucking with, it's like Loki fucking with people just to fuck with them, which I love doing too, so I get it.
Yeah. At the time I was fucking terrified because I'm this little kid that hears these voices, right? But at the same time, flash forward to now, I look at it as a positive experience because I believe that was part of my awakening process. Right. So I'm kind of thankful that it happened because it's exciting to me now. And I look at it now that it was a part of, maybe the creator allowing me to experience that in order to wake up and go back to him. Right.
Yeah. And to see that this world isn't all there is. There's
exactly. Yeah.
Out there. And the negative stuff, like there's negative entities here, but I think that God or whatever is inside all of us and knows that we're all going to be okay. So all of these negative outside things, it's up to us to kind of process that. We have to experience it and then process it correctly. And it's all a lesson or a game or however you want to say it.
I still stick to the idea that whatever that is, that kind of thing, paranormal or ghosts or aliens or Bigfoot and all, I still think it's all one thing. And I've yet to, how would you disprove that or how would you prove it? But it makes sense to me that it's all the same thing appearing to different people how they want to see it. So if somebody believes in Bigfoot, maybe it'll show up as big, hairy, fucking stinky thing in the woods because they're out there looking for it. Or somebody's really into aliens, but then you get the ones that have never looked into any of this stuff and they just have an experience like that as an adult and they're like, what the fuck was that? Like that came out of nowhere. And maybe it's all just trickster spirits. It's all just other dimensional entities just fucking with us. And I hate that term now, the other dimensional thing, because there's no other way to say that except that.
Yeah. So one of my friends who never believed in any of that shit until he was about, I think, 18 or 19. Because I told him what happened to me. He's like, oh, it's fucking bullshit. It's on your head, whatever, right? But then he was at a mutual friend's house and he was talking to her brother at the porch and he saw our friend sitting on the end of her driveway, rocking back and forth, crying. And he's like, Joe, what's wrong? And she's like, look over there. And he looks where she's pointed and he sees this old lady dropping this bag and picking it up. And then she walks a few more feet, drops the bag again, picks it up again, looks back at them and disappears. And he's like, what the fuck did I just see? She's like, she just died 3 weeks ago. She was my neighbor.
Oh shit.
Yeah, they both saw it at the same time.
Wow. I love those shared ones, but that's why it's maddening. Like I said earlier about the one person, the 50% of people who saw it never wanting to speak of it again. That's weird to me in itself, because just the fact that they have that visceral reaction where they're like, nope, no, I'm not talking about nope, and then they never talk again. That's odd in itself and kind of validates it.
And I don't exactly. I was going to say, because I don't think that that's actually them, and I don't think it's their choice. When Lene saw that fucking she still says that it was a fucking UFO outside the apartment last year. That she's like, the craziest thing was that while I'm looking at it, I'm seeing other neighbors that were outside. They were doing the barbecue, and they're looking at it just like she is. And it was that Oz effect where pretty much everything had gone quiet, except for maybe some of the cars on the road that weren't paying attention, but she couldn't hear anything else. There was no more chattering from the neighbors, no, nothing. And she goes, all of us went back inside after it went away. And she goes, and the only way I can describe it going away was that it didn't shrink. It was there, and then it just stopped existing, but not in a invisible poof, there it went. It was like it shrunk down into nothing. And she's like, and after I came inside, it took me about 15 minutes until I was like, holy shit, I just fucking saw one. But in those 15 minutes, it wasn't like she was thinking the way she was post it. And you hear that a lot with it, is a lot of times, for instance, Terry Lovelace, how they just had this feeling of hating each other's guts, they're best friends, and they don't want to talk about what it was that they just went through. Now that happens with trauma, which clearly they had gone through, but there seems to be this thing that happens when people experience it where it's almost uncontrollable, that it's not really them thinking about it logically that they don't want to think about it. It's just kind of like, oh yeah, I don't like thinking about that, so I'm not going to, which is part of the trip.
So that's a great segue, Davey. I wanted to kind of ask you about this recent, we haven't really touched on it much because it's not that I don't care. No, yeah, it's that I don't care about all this UFO disclosure shit. It's been ramping up so much, and it started a lot back like in 2017 with the Tic Tac thing. I was gonna say tic tac toe, but you know what I mean. The Tic Tac thing, and then all those different. I can't remember the fighter jet pilot guy that came out. I think that was the same event, but anyway, it kind of slowed down, and then this last year. Are we manifesting this shit because so many people are talking about Project Bluebeam and aliens, and they're just like, we have to start talking about it. And obviously we don't trust anything the media is saying or the government saying anyway. So why would we trust that now? So when they're coming out and that whistleblower that came out a week or two ago and talking about Antarctica and the earthquake weapon and I don't know if anybody's heard anything about that, but this is not the place to get information. We just spout opinions. So OBDM covered it. A bunch of places covered
Everywhere's covering it right now.
Yeah, pretty
I'm
much.
sure
And everybody's talking about it, which is why I kind of like didn't want to. But I do want to ask you about that since we're talking about high strangeness and shit like that. What do you think about Project Bluebeam or what's going on with all this at the moment?
Well, from what I've been hearing in the quote unquote echo chamber, is that Bluebeam could be a psyop, right? It could be the government is monitoring our fucking conversations, obviously, right? So the more that we discuss these things, the more that they catch on, and they're playing 5D chess all the time. So they could be like doing, psyops upon psyops with us because we were talking about these things. But at the same time, like I don't know if I buy into that because most of the people who are still asleep, they probably believe. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm fucking all over the place, but
no, I get what you're saying.
Man.
It's hard to explain.
Are you talking about the like the 8 foot tall being this fucking kid saw?
Yeah, that was all over the place, and then some model or something captured this UFO while she was on a flight, and it was impeccably good. I don't know if you've seen this video. Just look it up. Look up "model captures UFO." It's wild. Like it looks like it's through the cockpit too, which is kind of weird to me. Why would she be up in the cockpit area? But it's a crazy video of this like UFO just zipping past the airplane, and it looked like a classic UFO.
Like a saucer or like a
like a classic saucer thing, but it was like tilted a little bit and just zipping right by. And who knows? There's so much good CGI now and so much good AI that's why I don't trust any of this thing. And I guess Rogan talking about this incident of the model catching this UFO, and I'm like,
he talked about both. He talked about both because it ended up correlating that this Las Vegas pair of teenagers that are talking about these 8-foot beings. Mysterious Universe broke it down, and they're like, the only thing that doesn't line up to us is the mouth. The fact that they said they have a dark mouth, when typically that's not the part that's seen. It's usually an itty bitty slit, right? But the rest of it,
slits.
Maybe they evolved.
I like axe wounds.
Slits, yeah.
So they were breaking that shit down. But what made it interesting was that post this phone call, the reason why it got such attention, and there has been an update as of today, is that the cops saw on their body cam, 2 different body cams, as they were talking to an individual on the street, this what looked like a green fireball coming down and landing somewhere in the city. And then when they checked out this kid's yards, there were circular burn patterns. And so a lot of it is lining up. But then the update is that NSA feds went and put cameras at these people at this person's house. So like, again, we're always talking about how the psyop is the psyop. The idea that as long as there's enough people talking about shit that they kind of, crumb us, it ends up being, that's all they got to do. Now it's all over the place and we're just talking about it like fucking idiots. So I agree with Joe. I don't know what to think about it. At the same time, because of the whole 2017 FOIA, the fighter pilot, his version of it was that they had been seeing these for years.
No, we
So,
know
I don't
that
know.
we've been seeing them for years because citizens have been seeing them for years. We've been seeing them for decades. Whatever a UFO
Right.
is, whether it's military, whether it's blue beam, whatever it is, it's been happening for fucking decades. It's nothing new. The new thing is the government actually coming out and being like, "Oh yeah, these things are totally out there." When for the last 80 years they've been like, "Nope, this doesn't exist at all. We are not looking into it because it doesn't exist. You're crazy."
Or it's in mainstream news now. Every single article that I see, I talk about this all the time on the show, but every article I see, whenever I pull up anything, MSNBC,
Yahoo,
anything though, but literally any news outlet is all alien stuff immediately. And I don't even click on it. So
that could be your algorithm too.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I don't click on it at all. I scroll through to see how many are like alien stuff because I stopped clicking on anything. It's a work computer anyway. I can't really click on that, or my corporate office will know that I'm reading alien articles instead of working.
You're fucking crazy.
Right. Well, no. So
you're on the clock.
But when I pull up MSNBC, that's what pulls up automatically. That's the browser. I didn't set that. The corporate office did. So I pull it up. It's a different alien story every day is the first article that comes up. And I don't click it. So something's happening. And then I see it in Yahoo too. I send Joe all these articles, but
I think a lot of it could be a little bit of everything. Like, I don't doubt that some kind of technology like blue beam exists. And when you think about all the stories about the UFOs just defying physics and just zipping out, you know how easy that would be to do with a projector from the ground or something? Because you move it a little bit on the ground, and at that distance, it would look like it's going insane speeds. I was thinking about that today with all the haze in the sky. I'm like, it would be pretty easy to do. I'm pretty sure they have holographic 3D technology. Tupac did that. I mean, Tupac was on stage years ago, and that was after several years of getting it to that point. So whatever's available to the mass or to the big corporations or government, whatever now, has got to be light years ahead of Tupac. So I don't doubt that's a thing. I don't doubt that we have military craft that we know nothing about. Pretty sure we saw one 2 years ago. And then I also don't doubt that there's either some kind of either interdimensional, or whether you're flat earth or round earth, whether they come from other planets, which doesn't seem that plausible to me anymore. But whatever it is, it could be a mix of everything. It's probably all of it all at once. And they're just like, pick one, fight about it.
Yeah.
Other planets. I think we have to leave everything open because we have no idea. I don't know if Earth is round or flat. I will entertain all of it, but when people talk about different races of species from other galaxies, that's so plausible. Look at how our world is. If you take like a bug colony that lives on our patio right now, the other side of our yard is like a different world to them. Like they've never
right.
been there.
That makes me think that it's extra terra, the idea of extra terra. We're an anthill in the middle of a huge fucking, whether it's round or not, maybe it's just way the fuck bigger than we're told. Maybe it's way bigger around.
I mean, you can do the analogy however you want. I'm just saying that just because we live in this place and then we look up at the sky and some people say like, oh, the earth is flat, that's fine, whatever, but it might not be.
Just don't get mad about it.
Might be other species living out there that are watching over us, or some that don't give a shit about us, just like we are with bugs and other creatures on this earth.
Yeah, and stop getting mad about it, both of you. Okay, it feels like the flat earth and the ball earth people. Stop getting mad. Shut up. You're both wrong.
Yeah, that's a problem because it's just another divisionary tactic, right? Like, and I'm pretty sure the government or whoever the fuck is running this planet is like, look at these fucking peons.
Yeah.
You know?
That's the thing, is that Jen and I have agreed before. It's like, it is so narcissistic to think that we are the only ones in the whole universe that we can see that are alive. It's like, no, we are the top of the food. Like, how fucking narcissistic is that shit? Like, there's no way that there isn't something else the fuck out there. Now,
is stuff out there. There's other bugs
absolutely
that we don't care about because we're so narcissistic.
That's exactly. No, exactly. And to what Joe's point, to what you said, this is where I start to reel myself back out of the rabbit hole, is because maybe everything is a psyop. But I genuinely do think that some of the whistleblowers that are coming out are genuinely trying to tell the truth. I don't know which ones. Like you said, entertain everything, but question everything. It's like, I do think that some of the whistleblowers that have come out are trying to do the right thing and tell the truth and expose this. There was, what was it? I forget the organization. But it was that guy that did the debrief, and he was talking about he was a part of investigating some of these UFO sightings. But it was so compartmentalized in the government that there were sects with higher clearance that had shit on these investigations that didn't have to fucking release some of the information that would have helped them in the investigation. And to me, I'm like, see, that's where I think it's totally plausible. I think that some of these organizations are good and they are trying to get it to the public because we deserve to know. But I also think that there's a lot of people that don't want us to know. So
I doubt that.
On that.
I doubt that though, Ben, because I think the so-called whistleblowers that come out, they're probably fucking paid off by somebody.
What about the ones that die?
Yeah, well, that's another story. I think the whistleblowers that survive are most likely paid off to spew out a certain narrative.
If they're dead a week later, then I'm more apt to believe what they were saying, or at least look into it more.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about any of this. It's just we're like usual. We're just left to kind of watch and see what happens. And nothing ever. I brought this up a while ago, where no matter what happens, nothing ever seems to really change that much in our daily lives. Like,
no, that's the thing. It's like
wild, fantastical things that we talk about, and I still get up and go to work the next day, and it's still the same fucking shit.
That's what you have to still remember.
I don't necessarily pay attention to a lot of the stuff anymore because I just find it kind of fucks me up, you know. I'm like, even this whole submarine thing that's been happening the past couple days.
God.
Like,
I
didn't even know about it.
To me. I didn't even know this whole thing to me. I don't even know what's going on. I just hear submarine and I don't know anything about the fucking story.
See, people are already fucking putting out memes that like joking about it, and I don't even know what the fuck's going on. But then somebody sent me this article about how one of the guys on the World Economic Forum was on the sub, and the World Economic Forum didn't want him speaking out against the World Economic Forum, if that makes any sense. So they wanted him dead. And it's like, okay, fuck.
Did they put him on a highly publicized disappearance of a submarine? See, this is where I'm like,
there's this other meme that said like, oh, at least the Titanic has a new exhibit.
No, some of the memes are pretty fucking funny, and I actually learned everything I know about this case from memes. So most of it's probably wrong, but I don't really give a shit because I don't care about a bunch of rich people that decided to take a propane tank to the bottom of the ocean. Do whatever you want with your money and assume whatever liability you have for that. No, so Ben, what you apparently some shitty company that makes really shitty submarines for rich people took like 8 people or something down to the bottom to see the Titanic wreckage, which why, first of all, who gives a shit? And they apparently bolt the latch on, like it's not a thing that opens. They bolt the
pressure
on. Yeah. So they can't get, like, they're dead for sure by now, because even if they bobbed back up to the surface, they can't get out and they'd run out of air. So, I mean, rest in peace, whoever was in there that I don't know, but I don't know why it was such a big deal. And a lot of people are saying, oh, it was a big deal because the Hunter Biden thing just came out. Now this is the newest distraction. But I just, the 24-hour news cycle is exhausting and I just don't care.
Okay. So here's the problem, obviously, that I have with that whole circuit is that none of the news is what it used to be. And possibly the news was never what it was supposed to be. I don't know. But my thing is this, is that shit is happening in the world. People do die in submarine accidents, scuba diving accidents, skiing accidents, plane crashes, blah, blah, blah. So, like, that is a reality. However, I do somewhat agree that maybe the real shit that's happening is getting covered up. My thing is, though, is that the stuff that's getting covered up isn't being talked about at all. So I think that the Hunter Biden thing is the distraction. And then they put a sub-distraction to make it look like the Psyop is being distracted from the other distraction, so that no matter which way you cut the cake, you're still getting a fucking distraction. That's more of like what I'm inclined to think about it.
So the Hunter thing, though, is still a political theater thing. And it fell right in line with Trump being indicted again for something. And it's all these things going on simultaneously, and almost none of it affects almost everyone.
That's the news that matters, though. Whatever is affecting us to the core, that's what we don't know about. It's something that's going on that we have no idea what it is. and they're distracting us with other things to make us care about Hunter Biden and his fucking laptop. And I care about the if people died at sea looking at the Titanic. I don't care how rich they were or what they were involved in. That sucks. That's people dying. That's sad. We should still, as humanity, feel sad about that and not make fun of it.
No, okay, fair enough. But a lot more people died that same day, whenever they died of being poor and starving to death or something. So the fact that
we should care about that too.
You should care about this because it was 8 people that did this. It's like, okay, that's fine. A lot of other people died too today that you're not talking about.
You should hyper focus your attention on it either. I'm just saying we shouldn't be like, oh, they suck, they deserve to die. Like,
I didn't ever say that.
No, I get what Jen is saying though, is that it kind of goes along with what we believe in paranormal and all of this other stuff. It's like, unless it's happening in front of your face, then it doesn't affect you per se. So it's like a lot of the stuff that we hear in the news about these rich people dying or this, that, and the other, it's like, yeah, if it's true, then yeah, that sucks because that kind of shit happens. However, it's also doesn't affect me in the way that it's not impacting my life. Yeah, humans died and stuff like that. However, it's not impacting my personal life. But if I saw a submarine go down and then it didn't come up and they said all of those people died, that would affect me personally because I'm like, holy shit, I fucking saw that thing submerge.
It sounds like the Challenger in reverse.
Go in the opposite direction.
Yeah. Next thing you know, we're gonna see all these fucking people who are on the submarine have different careers 20 years later.
Yeah, and I wonder, when rich people want to disappear, because I always said if I won a couple $1 billion in the lottery, you'd probably just never see me again because I'm dis-fucking-peering from society. I'll interact with it, but I will not be known by any name you will find me by. And that would be glorious. But yeah, imagine if you have that much money and you're like, you know what? I'm really just tired of all the attention from being paparazzi and all this shit. I'm going to make it look like I died in this weird submarine accident. Make sure it's plastered all over the place so that everybody knows I died. And then I'm going to go get some reconstruction surgery and make myself look different. And
No. All you got to do is pay off the government and say, fly me over the ice wall. And I can live with all the other celebrities that were claimed to be dead.
You've got to talk to John Kerry and Obama and all that for some reason go to Antarctica frequently.
What do you think happens to their souls when they die? Do you think they get to go to heaven?
No, they get reincarnated here again.
That's another thing I've been talking about. Another thing I've been talking about lately is the whole idea of reincarnation, and that when we die, we see the light, and if we go into the light, we come back and reincarnate, and we have amnesia again. Got to fucking figure it all out again. But then there's the idea that the reptilians hijacked the light and they're tricking us into believing that if we go to the light, we go to heaven. But if we turn to the left, we actually ascend.
Well, hey, if Lucifer is the light bringer, don't go to the light when you die.
Right.
Wrong direction.
Because they're tricking us into believing that that's our ascension.
I think we should go where our heart feels when we die. I think we will know the moment we die. I think we're connected with God, and I think we will know exactly what to do. I don't think there's any necessary trickery going on. I think that's a really fun thing to talk about in this world, and I think that's a funny thing that we would all have a good ha-ha about when we die and we're on the other dimension, on the other side. We'll be like, oh, remember all that shit we talked about down there? Hey, let's go back and do it again. Like, this world is like a roller coaster for the soul.
I have a feeling I'm going to be
a long roller coaster.
I'm going to be one of those motherfuckers that when I die, I don't realize it for like 100 Earth years, where I'm just kind of wandering around doing the same thing, and I'm like not even aware that I'm dead, and and not even able to haunt anybody because I don't know I'm dead.
That sucks.
At least on purpose.
I don't think that's true. I think you'll be just fine.
No, so I think I always like the idea that when you reincarnate, if that's the thing, that you might not reincarnate on this timeline or this plane or this dimension. That makes it way more interesting because you could reincarnate on some Rick and Morty planet where there's everybody's an ass that farts all the time. Like, who knows? and that's just normal to you, Oh, everything's an ass that farts here. This is great.
I like the idea of reincarnating in soul groups, though. Do you ever talk about that, Davey? soul groups that reincarnate together, like a group of friends, just say a group of souls that get together and they're like, all right, dude, you want to go check out planet Quasilon this life? And you all draw cards and you're like, fuck, all right, I'm the mom.
I love that place.
You're the kid. You're my dad. Because we're not really gender specific as souls necessarily, I don't think.
Right.
So you
right.
roles that you play, and then you're like, all right, well, I'm going to be your shitty ex-husband in this one, or whatever it is. Like, it doesn't matter. And you draw your cards and then you're like, all right, ready, go. And then you go down, you play, and then you come back and you regroup. I think that's a really fun idea to think about life.
You're like, you were an extra asshole this time.
Like, wow, yeah, we got in a huge fight about everything. We got a divorce and all that. Or like, you were my kid. Weird. You were my husband in the last life. I don't know.
Yeah, like when we die, we all regroup in quote unquote heaven. And we're like, dude, we were like arguing about the stupidest fucking shit. Look how awesome it is here, man.
Why were we worried about that again? I don't even remember.
Yeah, and like heaven is also like outside of space time, right? So you have like look at what we're doing as podcasters. We're scheduling dates so that we can go about our daily lives, our jobs, come back and reconvene here, do a podcast together. There's not going to be any of that shit outside of space time. We could just have like these discussions all the fucking time whenever we want,
Right.
Yeah, and you can't wrap your human head around
eternity
outside of time and not having time or space or anything.
I think the closer we get, though, Joe and Jen, to the end times, the more we're going to be able to comprehend that feeling of eternity. Because
hopefully the human resurrection ascends us all.
Yeah, like the Quran. I was having a discussion the other day with this guy at work, because he's Muslim, and I was talking about the Bible and this thing. He's like, "Are you a Christian?" I said, "No, I don't like labels. I worship the Creator outside of religion." And he's like, "Dude, I love that," And he's like, "What do you know about like the Quran and Judaism and all this shit?" And I was telling him, and I was saying like he was saying that the closer we get to end times, the faster it feels like time is speeding up, and time is speeding up, but at the same time, time doesn't really exist. And I was like blowing his fucking mind, right? This hilarious conversation.
Did you take a bong rip first?
No, we were completely sober, which was the best part. Yeah.
Good for you.
We were at work. We were at work talking about this.
I can't talk about that shit at work. Everybody at work knows I have a podcast, and hopefully they don't fucking listen. And that might explain why some of them don't talk to me. And I'm totally cool with it, actually. I'm like, fine.
It's opposite for me. The more people that find out I have a podcast, they come and ask me so many questions. And I'm like, holy shit. And I'm there, and they're like, dude, you're fucking, like, this is so fucking wild, One of my fucking supervisors found out, and he's like, dude, I listened to your podcast last night. I'm like, oh, really? He's like, yeah, I was kind of gay. And I go, gay? What do you mean? He's like, no, dude, it's fucking awesome, and I'm all about it. I was like, cool.
Wait, that's his version of gay? He's like, dude, that's so gay. Like, no, that's not how you use that. Actually, that doesn't mean dope. Sorry.
No, he was like, no, dude, like, he's like, I'm all about what you're talking about. I'm like, cool, man, that's fucking great. He's like, I'm gonna go back home later tonight and gonna listen to more. Cool.
Oh, so he was just busting your balls then?
Yeah. Don't tell the fucking store director.
I'm actually surprised at the amount of people that I've come across, like kind of everyday people on my delivery route and stuff like that are interested in this stuff now. That wasn't a thing 5-10 years ago. That was not a thing. If you talked about this shit, especially in public, people were like,
"You're fucking nuts,
cuckoo, nut job." Now you can casually bring up some of this stuff to people, and they're like, "Oh yeah, totally, that's super interesting." It's
See, in my opinion,
more people waking up, man.
Well, in my opinion, I think that is the psyop. It's that predictive programming. I think that they're purposely getting the general public to talk about it for either just suddenly kind of one of those, it's already gone so far you can't reverse it. So one of two theories: either one, a fake alien invasion, Project Bluebeam, or something of that nature, and we're already being conditioned for it, or two, they're already fucking everywhere. And it's going to be one of those, like 60% of the population is aliens, and there's nothing you can do about it at this point.
Well, look at technology, though. Like
exactly
on our phones, we I don't know, maybe 2015, 2014. That's when I could really browse whatever I wanted on the phone. Maybe a little sooner, but it's exponentially grown since then. And so is everyone's kind of coherence with understanding what's going on in the world or what they believe. They can look up whatever they want now. So of course information is going to get out there and people are going to agree on more things that they would never have even known about.
And I love the idea of psyops, and it's a real thing. There's a psychological operation department in the military. They call it that. It's not a conspiracy theory. A psyop is a real thing. So, but to be one of those people that calls everything a psyop and everybody controlled opposition and everybody's out to get it, just you sound schizo after a while, and that's fine. Like that. Go for it. Go do that.
That's that rabbit hole that it's like, dude, how far are you gonna fucking go with this? Like, I get it. Yes, these things exist. That's how we know about them. They've been going on for a long time. But at what point do you go, you know what? I think some of these people are legit, and I think this should actually happen. Like,
I've got hard to tell where I'm like, yeah, it's a psyop. Fucking lean into it. Like,
believe it.
Roll with it. Whatever.
Maybe we're all possessed.
Oh, Jesus.
Probably. How about that one? Maybe we're all possessed by this spiritual awakening thing.
I don't like that at all.
I don't like it either, but maybe we are. Maybe we've inherited so much knowledge to do our podcast with and get all this knowledge out there. And maybe that's a psyop in itself, right? Like what you were saying, Ben. Like everything's a fucking psyop.
We're all controlled op. I mean, yeah. But hey, we're all getting along, having fun, right? So why not?
Yeah.
For the most part.
I'm not killing anybody. Oh, speaking about killing people, you guys ever watch The Purge?
I haven't.
The series. I'm watching the TV series right now, and it's making me like, yeah, it's really fucking crazy. It's
Are you starting to agree with it?
No, not at all. I asked this question now to my last couple guests, like, would you participate in the Purge if it actually existed, right? And they're like, no, dude, I would fucking hunker down and lock myself in. And I'm like, yeah, me too. I wouldn't want anything to do with killing people. And season 2, I'm watching now, this one innocent fucking college kid, he gets trapped with this guy who wants to purge him, and he ends up killing him instead. And now he's like all fucked in the head. He's traumatized by it. And he goes out and buys strawberries from this guy in the country. And he's like, you shortchanged me. And he's like, no, I didn't. He's like, yeah, I did. I gave you fucking 20 and you gave me 5 back. And it's only $5, right? He's like, no, I'll show you. He's like, that's not the fucking bill that I gave you. And then he ends up fucking jumping over the stand, and he ends up slashing him and stabbing him and like taking a rock and bashing him in the fucking head. I'm like, holy shit. And he goes back home to his girlfriend. And he's like almost like looking at her like he's gonna kill her. And then she's like, what's wrong with you? And he's like, I purged. And she's like, okay, well, did you feel that you had to do it? He's like, yeah. And she's like, well, it was on purge night. But it wasn't on purge night.
Dude, that sounds a lot like things I tell Jen, but she knows what I mean when I say I purged. She's like, for you, honey.
Okay, it's crazy though. It just shows people. This show shows people that like they could enact their own personal beast that's within them, right? And it's fucking scary, dude.
So I've never seen the series, but I know the premise of it. I would 100% participate in the Purge. I would be stocking up all year, making my entire hit list. Yes, 100. I think some people need to die. That's a thing. But if I was able to, I mean, that's, Now,
so it would have to be strategic, though. I'm not killing anybody who doesn't need to be killed unless they're trying to kill me or my family. Then you're dying. I'm sorry.
That's the thing. There is a moral side to it.
1500 Pennsylvania Avenue, I'd probably have a couple targets that I could go after with no remorse.
That was exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. So in the first season, the neighbor goes after his other neighbors, right? And these are like some of the main characters. He actually comes into the house and like he's gonna shoot the one of the main characters. He's like, He's like, dude, like, we'll fix your fucking driveway. Don't worry. I know we ruined it, but we'll fix your driveway. He's like, no. I could fucking purge you right now. And this and that. And it's fucking scary, dude. Like, it's really fucking scary.
That
That's
is the
probably not
epitome
that
of
far
martial
off.
law.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like out of the realm of possibility.
Right.
either. It seems
Absolutely
like-
not. That's why I find the fucking show so terrifying. It's like, shit.
We found out Davey Wavey's fucking horror series and film. He's like, what is the scariest movie you have seen? The Purge.
Actually, no, it's The Exorcist.
He immediately went home and put spiked fucking rails on his windows and shit. Which
So
is probably a bad idea.
So speaking of the purge, I knew someone way back in the day, one of my friends said, I think that every single person on earth should be allowed at like 18 or 21 to kill 3 people. You're allowed to kill 3 people. Think of how you would behave if you knew that everyone else was allowed to kill 3 people and you didn't know if they had killed all of their people or not.
It'd be an automatic social credit score because you'd just be on best behavior all the time.
Get
That's
dinged.
why I think that concept of the purge is genius because you could do so much with it, and that's why. And like I've watched every fucking movie. I'm watching the series now, and it's like there's so many things you can do with that concept. I think it's so genius.
So even though I say it's not out of the realm of possibility, I think it's more
absolutely
like
not the holiday that they portray in the movie, but the concept of, you know, like what Jen said, if you could kill anybody or like 3 people, right? Who would you kill? It's like that it's like that question, like kill, marry, fuck, right?
Fuck, marry,
same
kill.
kind of thing. Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things too, where if I reverse the side of that and go, all right, so everybody else can kill me. Well, to be fair, I would have died a long time ago. So it's like, again, it is what it is. It's free game. It has to go both ways. But yeah, I would 100% participate in that.
So I don't think I would be dead yet. Well, probably, but it makes people like stop it. Like if that was a normal thing you grew up with, where you got to kill 3 people once you turned 18, people would be building a list and crossing people off of it. Like, not that bad. He's just kind of annoying.
We also got to have the parameters. Like, is this like cold blood? You're allowed to 1, 2, 3. I pick you 3 and I get to kill them. No, if it's like, hey, legally you are allowed to kill up to 3 people. How you do it, up to you. But they are 100% within their right to defend themselves. That changes things because
they just punch your stamp card every time you kill somebody.
I would be in fucking Juggernaut costume all the time. I'd be like, not today. I'm fucking sniping me from that window.
2 fucking flamethrowers on your fucking fist.
Mad Max immediately.
So there is a term. There is a term in the TV series. If you were young and you experienced a purge, I think they call it like you're a first martyr.
Jesus.
It's interesting, because like the main characters in the first season, their parents were trying to protect them from purgers, and then when they got older, his sister joined a cult that he had to rescue her from, because the cult was like taking all these cult members on the bus and dropping them off at certain points to allow them to escape their pain. So they would like walk out into the field and there's all these purgers and they just say, free my flesh from the pain or whatever, right? And then the purgers would come and just beat the shit out of them and kill them. It's fucking nuts, man.
Hey, if it's consensual, I say carry on.
It sounds like this world, but just with you're allowed to kill people. And I think it's a super negative concept. You shouldn't be allowed to ever kill people. So saying you get to kill 3 people, like I think knowing right now that killing people is off the table, that's better for humanity. We're not focused on it.
It's only off the table.
Absolutely.
Not for the elites.
But it's not on the forefront of most of humanity's mind. Like, ooh, purge day is coming up, or like, I got those 3 people I can kill. We're not thinking about that. We're thinking of other positive things.
Right. And I'm not talking about killing people as in like, yeah, I can't wait to do this. No, not at all. What I want is to remove somebody who should not be alive anymore. And I'm not going to name names because that's just going to incriminate me. But everybody can guess who I'm talking about.
So here's the thing. I think that anybody who would want to participate in a national fucking purge day, they need to take fucking child molesters and a bunch of the other people that, in my opinion, should cease to fucking exist anymore. Kill those people, get it out of your system, and then go away. There's your purge day. Or chop the balls off.
Proof, though? Look, okay. Sorry to play devil's advocate on this, but someone's a convicted child molester, just say. That's fine. I would need to see every shred of evidence because our judicial system is insane.
Oh, no, for sure. It wouldn't work.
Accused all the time. Can you imagine just being wrongfully accused? Like you work for the government and then you're just blacklisted and they put porn on your computer and you're like, Jesus Christ, and you go to jail for 20 years and then the purgers get you?
You're exactly right. It wouldn't work today. And that's why it's not a thing. Like, yeah, in the current climate, this would never work, which is why it's kind of fun to hypothesize the situations of like, what would that look like in a dystopian, somewhat completely martial law kind of system, is that it's like there would be no judicial system and it would be utter anarchy until the strong killed all the weak and the good moral people no longer lived because they were like, I'm not participating, and then they get whacked. Like that's how it would
work our way back to capitalism.
Yes, we would. We would eventually just, it would never work. However, I do like the idea that I forget what episode it was that I heard this on. I think it was Rogan. They were talking about the levels of like being a sex offender. And it's like, dude, you can get a registered sex offender for being too drunk one morning when you woke up and peeing in the kiddie pool that's outside the front of your house.
It's almost like autism. There's a spectrum, right?
Fuck yeah. And some are more than others. So It's like you can be a registered sex offender for virtually nothing. But then there's other ones where if like you go through the case, there's undeniable evidence. It's absolutely horrific. The percentage is very small. But when you get to those people, I say kill them. And it doesn't have to be me.
I say rewrite the law altogether because there's no peeing in the kiddie pool in your house when you're drunk is not a sexual offense. Yes. It's not the same as actually.
But he showed his dick to the kids in the pool.
No. There's no. This is an empty pool. He's talking about an empty pool that's in your house.
Okay.
Pull it up. He's trying to be helpful.
Yeah. He's talking about peeing in his own backyard in a kiddie pool.
Trying to water the flowers.
Yeah.
Right.
I do that in my yard. And I live right next to a school, but I don't do it. I mean, we have a lot of cover, so nobody sees my little tiny ding dong, especially from the school. It's way too far away to see it.
That's the thing.
We're not a snower.
That would never happen with me because it's not like if anybody drove by, they'd fucking be able to see anything anyway. So they're like, hey, we saw his dinger. I'm like, no, you didn't. You saw black hair and that was fucking it.
You're full of shit. First of all,
full of shit, sir. I'm very aware of what you can see at 20 yards.
Yeah, you can't see a little earthworm from that far. Anyway.
Little shrimp.
Well, Davey, before we get out of here, oh, look at that. I just got a message from Ben. I got to get going. I know you do, dude. I know you. I got you, boo. Oh, hang on. Wait, I just got another message or something. Oh, no, it's the same thing. Okay. All right. Well, Davey, you can find him on Instagram at Red Pill Cartel. Tell me the exact thing.
At Red Pill Cartel Podcast.
Okay.
All one word, no spaces, no dots, no slashes. Hit my bio up, and my bio is my link tree, and you can find me wherever the fuck you want.
Awesome.
Excuse me.
Very nice. What a way to fucking sign off. I love it.
I know, right?
Max.
I'm gonna say this one bit before he goes because he's Canadian, and the last part of his podcast is cartel. It does sound. It's funny that it's a Mexican word because Canadians. They've never heard of Mexicans. They have the greatest wall ever built, America.
Right.
Yeah, you guys don't have to deal with that shit.
It's
Big
a long
brother, America. Canada's like America's little brother. That's what I always say.
We don't use our military. Yeah, we know. We got you covered. Go ahead and go back to sleep. We'll wake you up when the NHL playoffs.
We're gonna roll our canoes over to Europe to try and defeat the enemy.
With your muskets.
Nigel DeGoat wants to say thank you so much, Legit Bat Podcast, for having us on.
All right, everybody. Thank you. We will see you next time.
Fuck off.